Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I actually want to talk to you about what are the best universities to do a PhD in strategic management or do a PhD in business administration. It really doesn't matter which one you sort of choose. This is part of my Thesis Help series, and I just try to be as helpful as I possibly can for those folks that are interested in going into graduate school, particularly in a business school. So I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and this whole reciprocity project started out in terms of me having this really cool idea and want to help out other people. And it evolved into this much larger project now where I am helping out people on YouTube by providing all this really valuable information. And every Friday I talk about things that are interesting to graduate students that you might find interesting and helpful, or people that are just interested in getting into graduate school one way or another. So, there's lots of different factors to consider in terms of picking the best university for you for a PhD in strategic management. I can rattle off, I can go on to a list right now and go get you all the different rankings. I have a real hesitation, in a lot of people that are faculty, particularly research active faculty, have a lot of hesitation with looking at rankings for universities because these rankings change all the time and often they are lagging indicators. I have a video on this, but and you could look at that. You go to Thesis Help from a couple of weeks ago, but they're lagging indicators of performance. So normally what ends up happening is that a particular university or a particular college gets really hot and there's lots of really cool research that happens, and then the rankings follow 5 to 10 years later because of the cool stuff that's happening at that particular university. So if you are thinking of going into strategic management and getting a PhD in strategic management, what you'd probably want to look at, the best places to do that is in some sort of college of business or a business school. Now, some engineering schools do have programs. You can look at those. You can also look at certain research institutes. I know that in Europe, there's a couple of kind of like research institute places that do work that can be applied in a business school. So they might be doing things like on judgment and decision making, for example, looking at decision making, which can be used in a business school, and that's totally cool. Now, there are a lot of different names that you can look for doing a PhD in strategic management. Could be a PhD in strategy. I did mine in general management. It could be strategic management in years ago, and there might be a couple of programs still out there that call it business policy. That is kind of dying out, but years ago that was one of the names that people used to call. So what are these different factors that you should consider when doing a PhD in strategic management or picking out a particular, going in that direction, right? So how do you choose a university that's right for you? First of all, it's truly is a personal choice, and that's an important thing for you to think about. You have to pick out what is relevant to you and what's important to you for the school that you're going to. But there are some factors that you might want to consider, and I will give you sort of a lowdown on sort of inside view on this. First of all, faculty size. So this is universities should be, or rankings should be ranking based on faculty size, but rankings generally don't do that. If you look at all of the universities that are highly ranked in any of those particular rankings, it's all universities. Most of them are just really big universities that have a large number of research active faculty, right? And so if you just kind of control for that factor, then a lot of the effects kind of disappear, right? That it definitely gets sorted out in a different way since you control for and you control for faculty size. So the number of actual, not just faculty per se, not just faculty that are doing a PhD or that have a PhD, but faculty that are actually doing research and currently doing research. That's going to be a really important predictor of what goes on at a particular school. So often, larger universities, they're going to have. Why does that matter? It's just because that they have a lot more resources, right? So they have more faculty, means that a research active faculty, it might be a good decision for you to go there because, if you go to one person and you start working with that one person, you don't really like working with them, personal choice again, you don't like working with them, you can go to somebody else, and that is totally cool. You can go to somebody else. It's much easier to do that than it is to pick up your things and move to another location. That's why often people go to large cities, right? Because if you can't get a job or your spouse can't get a job in this one particular location, you're not going to be bounded by that, right? So one thing with like dual income families, for example, they like to locate in places like Durham County in North Carolina, right? There's lots of different universities there. They like to locate in Boston because there's lots of different universities there. If you don't go to one, you can go to another. Or you don't like Harvard, you go to another one, right? Another one is New York, right? These large cities where there's universities that are really close to each other makes life really easy for you. And the same thing with a large faculty. When there's lots of different people that are in that particular location, it makes life really easy for you. So what's the problem though when there's a large faculty, when there's lots of different people? I'm actually at a school where there was just 3 people for a long while, that are research active in strategic management, 3.5. But now it's changing, and I think we have 5 people that are research active in this particular area. Now, and this is just currently, right? It's 2008, 2018. This changes all the time. So the problem when you have a large faculty is that you can get lost, and there could be things like politics that can happen. And particularly if there's really a lot of well-known people, they might sort of, there might be politicking that might happen over particular resources that you can get involved in. It happens in every single PhD program. It doesn't matter whether it's in strategy, it doesn't matter if it's in chemistry, it doesn't matter at all what particular program you're in. There's politics that can be involved, and you can get dragged into the sort of political battle if you're at a larger university where there's kind of like where politics can exist, and they exist everywhere. But sometimes it has a negative impact. And what you want to do to mitigate that is you just kind of ask around and you see, how people feel. You might want to go visit that place and ask what the responses are. You can quickly get a feel for what's going to happen by, just looking around and keeping a really keen eye when you go around on the sort of stuff that's going to negatively impact you and make you feel kind of yucky. You just, get a good feel for that. You've got a PhD from that particular location is going to be for, more than likely 5-6 years. 4 years is short now. They'll tell you 4. Administration offices will tell you 4, but, realistically, it's now 5-6 years to get a PhD in strategy. That's becoming more the norm. And then plus a postdoc at the end of it. And unfortunately, that's the market. And if you go into a program and you just have this really bad, if you go to a program and you have that bad feeling, just know that you can switch. It's really, you're not stuck in any sort of way. And if you're in a location like that, you're just really not stuck. Just up and leave, switch. It's your choice, and it's not worth the time to sort of deal with stuff, just headaches. The second factor you can look at when you're choosing the university for a PhD in strategic management, look at school choice, right? Or school rankings. And I mentioned that school rankings, there's all sorts of problems with them. I'll just leave it at that. One of them is the size is going to be highly correlated with school rankings. And, you should look into that, right? So what's going on there? But you can also here's the thing, you can find amazing programs that are not ranked or that have a low rank. And you're like, well, what's going on here? Well, there's changes in the marketplace that's going on there. Maybe that there is somebody that's really amazing that's working out of that particular location. that you would want to work with, right? So you have to actually look into what's actually going on behind the scenes. The ranking it's an easy way to judge performance, like observable performance, but it is often masking on a lot of different things that are going on behind the scenes that could really persuade you to go in one particular location and compared to the next. The best thing is to ask somebody. So the third factor that you should probably consider is really think about your family. And I've seen this so many times. And people underestimate this, particularly because we're all anybody that's interested in doing a PhD, particularly in strategy, particularly in a business school, we are very, very competitive by nature. So we look for how can we actually increase our career and be amazing at our career, right? We're all kind of hardwired in that way. We're kind of type A personalities. But what we forget and we neglect is that it is a 5-year commitment, right? That it's a 4 to 5 year commitment. And that's a long time to deal with family issues along the way. And that is something, and everybody will go through this. It is a tough program. You're not making any money if you do a PhD. During the PhD, you're basically below the poverty level. In fact, if you watch some of the videos, what I put out, this is the whole reason why I'm doing the whole reciprocity project is to help out PhD students in this particular area. You're below the poverty level for a long time, and it's very, very, oddly enough, you work your butt off during that time, so you're working really hard. And, it's really stressful on your family because you are going to feel torn between being committed to your family versus committed to work. It's up to you how you balance that and how you deal with it. But, I would not discount it in any sort of way. So if it means that you are uprooting your family to go to someplace around the world, really think twice about that. It is a really tough decision. You should really think about it. There are programs now that are amazing in all parts of the world right now in PhDs and strategic management, and they all vary in different skills. So if you're in Asia, the NUS in Singapore, INSEAD in Singapore, Hong Kong Institute of Technology, in I think University of Beijing is up and coming. CEIBS is another one in China, which is CEIBS. There's some great programs. Australia, there's the Australian Business School. In Europe, there's a bunch in Europe, like London Business School and HEC. In Spain, I'm gonna say it incorrectly. I'm not even gonna go there because I don't even know how to probably say it. So, anyways, that there's wonderful programs all over the world, not just in the U.S. and in Canada. But when you'd want to consider the one downfall when you consider that the trade-off when you're sort of making decisions based with family to stay in one particular location. And here's the thing, I do work with people all over the world. I bump into people that are doing PhDs and all over the world that are doing some really wonderful stuff. And that part doesn't matter, but when you go on the job market, there is a bit of a discount that happens because most of the jobs you're going to get, the U.S. is actually still the largest market for professors. So if you do a PhD out of the UK and it is not from, the top 2 schools, top 3 schools, you're at a discount to try to get into those schools in the USA. The same goes with any country. There's a thing called the liability of foreignness. If, you apply from, I don't know, I'm not going to name any particular universities, but, kind of not the top ranked universities, and you apply to another program in another country, they're not going to consider you unless you're from the very, very elite programs. And then they might consider you. And even still, you're going to have a discount because there's uncertainty. And, don't discount the fact that they have to do a lot more paperwork. For me, I moved from Canada and went to University of Western Ontario, and then I moved to Canada from Canada to here. There was a ton of extra paperwork that they had to do for me to move to the US. And it was really costly. It was really uncertain. There was all sorts of it was really messy. So really consider that. That is an important thing to truly consider. The other thing that you should look at, and I think this is maybe even more important than school rank or faculty size. Well, faculty size is, you might consider that. But you really want to look for people that are doing interesting research, things that you find interesting and that you are excited by that. That is going to be the biggest thing that you would want to consider. But here is the caveat. So the stuff, particularly if you're coming from an undergrad or an MBA, you are going to have this view of the world. And I'm not discounting it, but this is really important to consider because I went through this and every other person that's gone through a PhD program has gone through this. Your view of the world is really applied at this moment, and you don't necessarily understand the nuances behind sort of thinking theoretically. And the applied stuff really is, it's not as valued in the academic world compared to the theoretical stuff. There's lots of reasons for that. You can watch some of the videos that I have from the past where I talk about that kind of stuff. But really, it's just not going to be as valued. So, and the other thing is you're just really not going to understand if somebody's doing really interesting work by simply looking at, are they doing work in, I don't know, maybe it's blockchain technology. Well, we don't know if that's a good thing that they're doing, good research that they're doing, or it's just kind of like sort of fluffy stuff that they're doing that's not necessarily all that good. And it's hard to figure out whether that is good or not until you have a good understanding of what it means to do stuff and sort of the theoretical understanding. And once you do that, it's kind of too late. So just one thing that you want to do is you just ask around and ask people that are who's doing good research, what's out there that people are doing that are doing really interesting things theoretically. And you want to ask people that are in the research know. And that's hard to sort of communicate who those people are, but you just want to look for those people. They might be doing fairly good. They themselves are a research star in your particular school, and they're publishing in really tough journals and things like that. That's going to be an important thing for you to consider. And then you might want to ask them if they're nice. Some people are not nice. They're not going to sort of tell you one way or the other, and some people are. And you just it's up to you to sort of dig through and find those particular people that are of interest to you. The other thing that in the last thing, and I've mentioned this many times already in this particular video, is that you just ask people, just go and talk to, so wherever your school is, if you're an undergraduate and you're thinking of doing research, if you're an MBA and you're thinking of doing research, just ask the faculty, ask somebody that you trust, and it has to be somebody that is doing research, that's still pretty research active. Unfortunately, that's the case. You're probably going to get a straight answer from them, and just ask them where they did their PhD, or look to see who are the stars in your particular institution or institutions in your country. So for me, from Canada, you might want to look at, and I should have done this at the time. I was kind of, not all that bright. What I should have done is look to see where everybody's doing their different PhDs from the different schools in Canada. Like all the faculty at where I did mine was University of Western Ontario. Just look to see where they're doing their PhDs, and you can get a good sense of where they're doing their PhDs to get a job at a similar school. And it's probably going to surprise you on that particular result if you're looking at that. But then also just ask people, because Sorry about that. I just bumped the monitor and it shut off. Anyways, so you just want to ask people and see where they did their PhD, and you'll get a good sense of what to do in terms of, where you want to get a similar position and think about where you want to get just look around and ask people. That's going to be your best bet, and you're going to get a good insight from doing that. So that's all I want to talk about in this video. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. And make sure you do give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is awesome as I build out this whole reciprocity project and sort of make this better for you. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.